Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we continue our study of the practical applications of biotensegrity. Today's topic is spirals. Leonardo da Vinci saying, all knowledge begins as perception. Biotensegrity is a lens to perceive what we cannot see but can sense is happening in the body. Spirals are one of the most enduring, obvious but unseen forces in movement. They are as ubiquitous in movement as they are in nature, from the double helical structure of DNA to the shape of the Milky Way. Today we will begin to explore some of the emergent properties of spirals under load in the body. After numerous injuries from a professional dance career, I have pursued safe and effective ways to load the body for me and my students. And Tai Chi and biotensegrity have made that possible. Building on our understanding of terrific triangles and their superstability from previous segments, we see on a micro level how the tetrahedron begins to define three-dimensional space. When we string a series of tetrahedrons together, a three-dimensional spiral emerges, forming a tube. Most of the various tubes in the body, intestines, blood vessels, etc., have either a double or helical, triple helical structure, making them strong yet adaptive, as we will see when we discuss auxetics. On a macro level, spirals in movement also make us strong and adaptive. If bodies were only vertically loaded compression structures, we would be stable in only one direction. Instead, because of the inherent spiral construction of the body and the groundbreaking articulation of the mechanotransduction system by Donald Ingber, bodies are stable in all directions. Forces are distributed, as Danielle Claude Martin has observed, simultaneously in, out, and around. There are an endless variety of movements to demonstrate the omnidirectional distribution of force, and I have chosen one from my 30-year practice of Tai Chi. But before we start, I want to say a word about perception, language, and motor learning. The movement pattern you will begin to explore today may sound simple. In fact, it is a weight shift and turn. Easy, right? But as we add details, performance of this movement can become surprisingly tricky. It is said that if one can master this weight shift and turning movement known as the bear, one can master Tai Chi. In any motor learning, we activate what is variously called our proprioception or interoception, more commonly referred to as feelings or sensations. Neuroscientist Lisa Feldman Barrett, in an interview, once compared the amount of brain power given to vision, hearing, and proprioception as the difference between a modern high-definition TV for vision and hearing and a black and white TV from the 1950s with rabbit ears for proprioception. For example, in this movement demonstration, I will ask you to bend your knees from standing. I will explain and demonstrate what I'm asking you to do, and you will perform your program called Bending Knees. You may feel your movement is correct, but it may not be. To see if you're doing the movement correctly, you can use mirrors or get professional instruction from a movement specialist. And although I had an extensive movement background before learning Tai Chi, my teacher constantly cautioned us about getting off track. In addition, you will hear the words sung and sink. And what do we mean by that word? And how does your body interpret it? The Chinese ideogram for Song also translates as release and open. The lens of biotensegrity can help clarify the complicated movement quality of Song. So I frequently ask my students to work on the floor as a way to improve the accuracy of their proprioception. However, when you come to uprightness in a gravitational field and are moving in space, more complicated demands are placed on the brain and body. The conscious brain is incapable of tracking all your disparate parts as they move, so it will fall back on previously learned motor patterns, better known as your habits. Performing the bear slowly, repeatedly, for 5 to 10 minutes a day with the lens of biotensegrity can bring unconscious habits of thought and movement to conscious awareness and move us toward Daniel Claude Martin's brilliantly named comfort self-stress. Whether in the movement arts, therapy, or sports, spirals are everywhere. From a patient reflexively releasing tension by unwinding in spirals on a treatment table to 95-mile-an-hour fastballs in baseball, spirals play a pivotal, get it, pivotal role. The bear in Tai Chi is a practice to exploit the benefits of spirals in the body. So we start with our feet in parallel, shoulder width, not hip width apart. And take a moment to appreciate your in, out, and around interaction with gravity and the ground reaction force. If you're inside, take in the right angles of your carpentered environment and compare it to your own three-dimensionality. Weight shifts and turns can be done with the feet in multiple configurations. But we start with our feet in parallel, and there's a specific reason for doing that, and I will explain that later. So you could turn both feet out and do a weight shift and turn, any number of configurations of the feet. Now shift your weight 100% with your legs straight onto the right foot. And from a position of fully weighted straight right leg, begin to slowly sink the body by bending at the ankle, knee, and hip, as if you were lowering an auger into the ground to dig a hole for a deck footing. You could also imagine a tensegrity jitterbug opening and closing. Keep all the weight on the right leg. Pause at a comfortable range of motion. And notice how you accomplish that. There may be several things that you do or notice, including the potential to pronate the foot and the knee, or twist the upper body to turn more, or even bending forward from the hips as you bend the knee. So take time to practice that on both sides. Come to the left and lower. And notice what happens on the left side. And you notice if it's different on the left and the right. And you can play with that, on the right side and the left side, starting from a straight leg and augering into the ground, or opening and closing the jitterbug. Now let's begin to add details and see how the movement changes. Move on to the right leg and turn, but this time keep both knees straight. Both knees bent. Sinking the weight, or sung, as it is known in Tai Chi, also means to open or release. So as you do the movement, remember what Steve Levin has said about muscles, fascia, and bone, which is to arrange the tensegrities in the body for the efficient omnidirectional force distribution. So we want to create the conditions where the joints of the foot and the leg remain open as you sink the weight into the foot. In Tai Chi, this is known as growing a root. Now, much can be said about the importance of a root or the connection to the ground in all aspects of our life. But for now, growing a root with a biotensegrity lens begins to take full advantage of the ground reaction force that propels us upward by stimulating the turning pegs of the foot and having that communicate through the mechanotransduction system so that everything changes as you weight the leg. So turning from side to side, shifting weight, and turning and sinking. You may have already noticed in your body, or by watching me, that that when you sink, you turn. You don't have to do a turn, it just happens. The Tai Chi master Ben Lo says, there are no turns in Tai Chi, only sink. The turn in Tai Chi is not a twist, so we're not twisting the upper body. It's a movement around the hip and the knee and the ankles so that the eyes, nose, and navel remain in the same plane. And notice if it changes on one side to the other, that the eyes, nose, and navel stay in the same line as you shift your weight. Now you may further notice that when you fill the leg, as the body turns to the right, it requires a spiral of the right leg to the left in order to balance the forces and maintain the structural integrity of the foot and the leg. Do this to the other side. There is also something you don't have to do, but allow, and you're taking advantage again of the mechanico-transduction system. And just play with that on both sides so that as I shift to the left, my leg spirals to the right to maintain the structural integrity. So you don't want pronation or supination of the foot or the knee, or lateral hip displacement, or a forward bend of the torso, like this. So lateral hip displacement is good for salsa, not for Tai Chi. So, if you want to do that, that's good for salsa. Now, oppositional spirals in the whole body are a major theme in Tai Chi and biotensegrity. Previously, I had thought that oppositional spirals would cause unhealthy wear and tear on the joints of my legs and back. And as I practiced the principles of Tai Chi with a biotensegrity lens, the movement of the bear revealed the auxetic quality of biological tissue. In other words, instead of the bear causing problems for my joints, it actually opened them up. In addition, when I did the bear with my feet in parallel, long-standing problems from golf in my lower back and my tensor fascia lata, the outside of my leg, abated. The experience began to unify my hands and my feet and my head through the center of my body, known in Tai Chi as the Dantian. It also gave me a deeper understanding of the obvious but underappreciated contralateral spiral nature of many common movements like walking and or hitting a golf ball or hitting a baseball. The language used in Tai Chi when one leg is full or weighted and the opposite arm is full. The last detail to add to the bear was difficult for me because of my ballet training. It involved the intention of releasing the potential energy in the leg using the oppositional spirals in a coil, and at the right moment, releasing the coil into the ground to shift the weight from one foot to the other. In the Tai Chi vernacular, that example of the mind is an example of the mind moves the energy and the energy moves the body. So I'm using my intention to actually release into the ground in order to initiate movement to the other side. And I was always taught to push the ground away from my training in the past to create movement. Allowing a weight shift by releasing into the ground and using gravity illuminated another obvious but perplexing idea of Steve Levin's. In a previous video, Steve had suggested that movement was largely generated by storing and releasing energy in the bones. Now that made no sense to my paradigm at the time, because only muscles can move you. But a careful study of bending the knee and loading the leg and using the compression and storing the energy and releasing the compression and that causing movement began to clarify this idea for me. So in summary, spectacular spirals and awesome auxetics in biological tissue produce numerous health benefits, like strengthening the immune system, improving balance, pliability, and strength in the whole body through a range of motion. And using bones and connective tissue to store and release energy, establishing and maintaining joint space under load, and healthy bones are only part of the benefits from doing the bear. So I thank you for your kind attention.